There are leaders in world history whose names were not only written with the sword, but also with justice, art, and words. As the Ottoman Empire rose to its peak, a young sultan sat on the throne, a hero of the battlefield, a creator of laws, and a poet. Suleiman, Forbes, Suleiman the Magnificent. Centuries have passed, yet his name is still remembered with reverence. Are you ready for the story of a sultan who not only ruled an empire, but also conquered hearts? But this story is not just about swords. It holds a great love, a father's most painful decision, and a tragedy that shook the empire. So, why did Sultan Suleiman order the execution of his own son? And how much influence did Hurrem Sultan have in that heartbreaking decision? The answers to these questions, and much more, await you in the video. Fact 1. Silent but dangerous. The young Sultan Suleiman. He was born in 1494, the son of Selim I, then governor of Trabzon. At the time, the Ottoman Empire was already powerful, but it faced numerous political and military challenges. From a young age, Suleiman was specially trained to govern the state. He learned Arabic, Persian, and Latin, and studied the Quran, law, philosophy, history, and military science. Among his tutors were some of the most knowledgeable scholars of the era, and Suleiman embraced this education not just for prestige, but to one day become a just ruler. His father, Selim Mermer, was a stern and formidable sultan. Under his reign, the Ottoman Empire expanded significantly, most notably with the conquest of Egypt, which brought both political and religious power. Suleiman, raised in this environment of strength, was different in nature, gentler, more reflective, and with a poet's soul. In 1520, Selim died suddenly and the throne passed to Suleiman. At the time, some viewed this as a risky choice, since Suleiman was known as a quiet young man who loved reading. But time would prove that his silence was not weakness. It was the quiet of deep resolve and hidden strength. As soon as he ascended the throne, Suleiman made his mark. His first act was to end unjust practices within the palace and replace corrupt officials. Guided by the principle, power is meaningless without justice, he began ruling the empire not just with the sword, but with wisdom and law. Fact 2. Wherever the Sultan walked, doors opened. Some seek victory through the sword, but others conquer with every step they take. Suleiman didn't merely claim lands. Wherever he went, doors opened and hearts trembled. For with him came not only his army, but justice. In 1521, Belgrade, standing firm for years against the Ottomans, fell under the mere breath of Suleiman's approach. As the fortress shook, the Sultan declared, "It is easy to open gates with a sword. What matters is guarding them with justice." After Belgrade came Rhodes. The Knights Hospitaller believed their island impenetrable, but Suleiman besieged it for 6 months. When the fortress finally fell, he said to the knights, "You fought with honor. Now leave with dignity." This act of mercy became a victory greater than any battle. Then in 1526 came Mohacs, a battle remembered for its speed and devastation. In just 2 hours, the Hungarian army was crushed, and King Louis II died not in battle, but drowning as he fled. Yet Suleiman did not boast. He quietly remarked, "Victory is not measured by the death of a king, but by how little blood the people must shed to find peace." In 1534, he entered Baghdad, not with bayonets, but with words. This was not an enemy's land, but a divided Muslim ummah. He rebuilt the bridge between Sunni and Shia, asking, if prayers go to the same God, why treat each other as enemies? Baghdad wasn't conquered, it was understood. His path stretched through Tabriz, Nakhchivan, Van, and the Caucasus Mountains. Wherever he set foot, laws were written and people were heard. Finally, in 1529, he reached Vienna, the heart of Europe. The fortress didn't fall, but Europe awoke to a new reality. The Ottoman Empire was not just an Eastern force, it was a global power. In the end, Suleiman didn't leave behind burning castles, but cities alive with peace and order. As he once said, "Wherever I walked, doors opened, not for war, but to let justice in." Fact 3, the unforgettable love story of Sultan Suleiman and Hurrem Sultan. One of the most colorful and mysterious chapters in Sultan Suleiman's life is his relationship with Roxolana, known to history as the legendary Hurrem Sultan. She held a special place in his heart, and their love story not only touched the depths of an emperor's soul, but also reshaped the Ottoman palace, its politics, and ultimately the course of history. Hurrem Sultan, once known as Anastasia, was a beautiful young woman brought from the distant lands of Ukraine. But it wasn't just her beauty that captivated Suleiman. It was her sharp intellect, strong will, and unwavering determination. When she first entered the palace, she was seen as just another concubine, but she would soon become the most powerful woman in the empire. She wasn't merely his wife, she became his closest confidant, his most trusted advisor. Their bond shattered centuries-old traditions. Hurrem was freed, and for the first time in Ottoman history, a sultan officially married a former slave, granting her unprecedented influence in the imperial court. Their love shone like a rare light within the palace, surrounded by rigid politics and ruthless rivalries. Hurrem is remembered not only for her deep love, but also for her decisive role in state affairs. She worked tirelessly to secure the future of her children and maneuvered through the complex palace intrigues to see her son ascend to the throne. Sultan Suleiman respected her deeply, her counsel, her wisdom, and above all, her love. He once said, "A state is not held together by the sword alone, but by the love that binds hearts." And this love became one of the core pillars of the empire's golden age, where power, justice, and love met in perfect harmony. Fact 4. The golden fruits of Hurrem and Suleiman's love. Hurrem Sultan was not only Sultan Suleiman's most beloved wife, but also the mother of several of his children. She gave birth to at least 5 of his offspring, each of whom played a significant role in shaping the future of the Ottoman throne. Among them, the most renowned was Shahzad Mehmed. Though his life was tragically cut short at a young age, Sultan Suleiman loved him deeply, and his loss left a profound mark on the Sultan's heart. Their daughter, Mihrimah Sultan, became one of the most influential and powerful women in Ottoman history. Suleiman affectionately called her the Sultan of my moon and sun, a phrase that reflected his boundless love and pride for her. Mihrimah was not only a daughter, but a symbol of light and hope in his life. Another of Hurrem's sons, Shahzadi Selim, would eventually ascend the throne as Sultan Selimmiku, continuing the imperial legacy. Her other sons included Shahzadeh Bayezid, whose life ended in a tragic rivalry for the throne, and Shahzadeh Jahangir, a delicate soul whose health and fate also brought sorrow. Hurrem's love for her children stood as a beacon of warmth in the cold, calculating atmosphere of the palace. Yet their lives were entangled in the web of court intrigue. Each child was both a beacon of hope and a possible threat to the empire's balance. The children born from Hurrem and Suleiman's love left a legacy marked by affection, ambition, and tragedy. They were not only royal heirs, but emotional anchors in the Sultan's life, and their stories became unforgettable chapters in Ottoman history. Fact 5. Prince Mustafa and the Dark Shadow of the Crown, a bitter trial for the Ottoman throne. In the Ottoman palace, every crown came with a story, but the tale of Prince Mustafa was not just a story. It was one of the empire's greatest internal tragedies. Prince Mustafa, the beloved son of Sultan Suleiman, was widely regarded as the strongest contender for the throne. He was deeply loved by the people, seen as a promising future leader of the empire. Yet behind the palace walls, jealousy and political intrigue darkened his fate. Hurrem Sultan and her allies, determined to protect the throne for her own sons, sowed seeds of suspicion around Mustafa. A web of manipulation slowly isolated him from his father. Mustafa wasn't just fighting for a crown, he was fighting for his father's love and trust. But Hurrem played the harshest game of politics, weaving narratives that painted Mustafa as a threat. Eventually, those whispers took root, and the prince became a symbol of perceived danger. In a devastating conclusion, Sultan Suleiman made the fatal decision. In 1553, under his father's command, Prince Mustafa was executed by his own men. His death became one of the most painful examples of how loyalty, family, and power collided in Ottoman history. For Sultan Suleiman, it was perhaps the most agonizing decision of his reign, a choice between love, duty, and justice. As he once said, "The weight of the crown can crush even the closest blood." Fact 6. Sultan Suleiman's harem, secrets of power behind the veil. Sultan Suleiman's harem was one of the most mysterious and influential parts of the Ottoman palace. It was a world hidden behind high walls, filled with thousands of concubines, women brought from various regions, trained and educated in arts, language, etiquette, and palace politics. Each woman competed for position and influence through her beauty, intelligence, and talent. Hurrem Sultan's rise in this world remains one of the most unique events in Ottoman history, but she was not the only woman in Suleiman's life. Before Hurrem, one of the most well-known concubines was Mahidevran Sultan, the mother of Prince Mustafa. She was once Suleiman's favored consort and became Hurrem's primary political rival within the palace. The Sultan's harem was not just a place of romance or luxury. It was a complex institution that played a key role in the empire's political life. Power shifted not only through swords and armies, but also through whispers in the harem halls. Suleiman is believed to have had around 10 to 12 children, though only a few became known figures in history. The lives of these children, shaped within the harem's intense and often dangerous atmosphere, had a profound impact on the Ottoman dynasty. Behind the silks and perfumes, the harem held one of the greatest secrets of imperial power, where love, ambition, and politics silently shaped the fate of an empire. Fact 7. The lawmaker, Sultan Suleiman's legal legacy. Sultan Suleiman was not only a great military leader, but also a brilliant legislator. That's why history remembers him as Suleiman the lawgiver. During his reign, the Ottoman Empire was governed by a unified and just legal system that embraced its diverse populations. He personally oversaw the creation of the Kanun-i Ali Osman, a comprehensive legal code. These laws covered a wide range of areas, from taxation and criminal justice to property rights and commerce. Suleiman demanded integrity from judges and launched a firm battle against corruption, setting a high standard for justice throughout the empire. His legal reforms brought peace, stability, and fairness to the empire, strengthening its foundations and ensuring order across vast territories. This enduring contribution earned him the title the Lawgiver in the East and the Magnificent in the West. He once said, "Without justice, no state can endure." Fact 8. Suleiman and the Golden Age of Art. Sultan Suleiman was not only a great military leader and lawmaker, but also a passionate lover of culture. During his reign, the Ottoman Empire reached a brilliant peak in art and architecture. The famous architect Mimar Sinan, supported by Suleiman, built magnificent mosques, palaces, and bridges that combined both beauty and the technological innovations of the time. Suleiman himself was a poet under the pen name Muhibi, bringing the finest verses of poetry to the palace. Thanks to his patronage, music, painting, and literature flourished, marking the golden age of Ottoman culture. At the same time, Hurrem Sultan played a major role in this cultural rise. Under her initiative, the magnificent Hurrem Sultan Mosque was built in Istanbul, considered one of the masterpieces of Ottoman architecture. Hurrem Sultan also sponsored social infrastructure projects: hospitals, schools, caravanserais, and baths. With her influence and support in the palace, these projects greatly impacted both the cities and the empire's cultural and social development. Thus, Sultan Suleiman created the golden era of Ottoman culture and arts. This period is remembered not only for conquest, but also for a great cultural renaissance. Fact 9. Sultan Suleiman's death and the empire's later fate. Sultan Suleiman passed away in 1566 after a long and mature life, having ruled the throne for 46 years. His death marked a major turning point for the Ottoman Empire. His reign left an irreplaceable legacy in military conquest, lawmaking, and culture. However, after Suleiman's death, the Ottoman Empire gradually began to face internal challenges. Succession struggles, economic difficulties, and external pressures caused the empire to lose much of its former strength. Despite these hardships, Sultan Suleiman's legacy remained a source of inspiration for an empire rich with both great victories and complex historical events. His name lived on in history with the grand titles, the Lawgiver and the Magnificent, forever immortalized. Fact 10. The legacy of Sultan Suleiman and history's verdict on him. Sultan Suleiman's will and reign left a deep mark on the history of the Ottoman Empire. The laws he established, his support for culture, and his conquests influenced not only his era, but also generations to come. Historians and critics regard Sultan Suleiman as a great just ruler, a brilliant statesman, and a passionate patron of culture. His era is considered one of the brightest chapters in Ottoman history, leaving an unforgettable legacy under the name Suleiman the Lawgiver. However, history also sees human flaws. Palace intrigues, family tragedies, and the difficulties the empire faced later were also part of his reign. Notably, the issue of Prince Mustafa was a painful wound for the Ottomans. Mustafa's execution caused widespread discontent and left a lasting shock among the people for many years. This dramatic event disturbed the internal balance of power within the empire and negatively affected its future. Thus, alongside Sultan Suleiman's brilliant legacy, family dramas and political intrigues left indelible marks on the course of the empire. The challenges the empire faced later were also part of his rule. Dear viewers, Sultan Suleiman's life and legacy teach us important lessons. A story where power, justice, love, and sometimes human weaknesses all intertwine. If you found this video interesting, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We will bring you more historical stories and secrets in the future. Thank you, and see you in the next video.